That just means we're going to be shipping more packages to you guys and making you very happy. I promise you, when you go to your mailbox and you get Frog in your mailbox, it's a great thing. Getting Frog in your mailbox is probably the best thing that anybody could do. It is really nice. People like it. Frog.
Many know him today as the Frog Father, the Human Sunbeam, EVS, or Uncle E. However, before he would don any of these familiar monikers, he was simply a young man with a dream of becoming a professional comic book artist. In between trying to eke out a living, EVS created Cyberfrog, part amphibian, part alien cybernetics, all attitude. Before he had a chance to really expand on Cyberfrog's lore, the talented young artist was forced to shelve the quirky amphibian in order to pay the bills. Ethan would go on to spend the next couple of decades working in comics, but drawing other people's creations. Years later, Ethan resurrected his froggy friend and breathed new life into his old pal. Cyberfrog was given a modern, sleek look. Along with the updated physique came a more mature, heroic attitude and a fleshed-out origin. Fans were very excited about EVS's new take on the Frog, and showed their support by backing Ethan's new Cyberfrog comic to the sum of well over $800,000. Fans just couldn't get enough of Cyberfrog, and so Ethan humbly listened to his supporters and dusted off his old work. He offered a complete collection of all of his early 90s Frog books in the appropriately titled Cyberfrog, Warts and All. In addition to this collection, fans were treated to the Cyberfrog Unforgettable Tales comics. These 4 books featured a polished-up version of the first Cyberfrog stories created by EVS. These books received the George Lucas treatment, as Ethan referred to it, sans the whole Han shot first kind of debacle.
Yes, I bet you have.
While Warts and All was the classic Cyberfrog stories in their original, rough, and unaltered format, Unforgettable Tales was cleaned up, colored, and given a more modern feel. While I really dig the modern version of Cyberfrog and feel he's a bit more representative of how a hero should behave, there was just something charming about the original version of the Frog. EVS fully embraced the unapologetic violence and edginess of many of the comics from that era. I suppose OG Cyberfrog was somewhat a product of his time. His behavior mirrored the cynicism of the 1990s and the arrogance of youth of his creator. Cyberfrog's initial debut features a hero who's not exactly sure who he is or where he's from. While he's driven to protect the innocent, he doesn't particularly care for humans. In his defense, the few people the Frog has interacted with haven't exactly been all too kind to him. This version of Cyberfrog patrols Manhattan, hunting the criminals who are plaguing the streets. Why not Philly, as is the case with modern Cyberfrog? Well, as the amphibian is quick to state to readers, it's where all the superheroes are from. And it's an expected cliché at this point. Cyberfrog's ability to break the fourth wall is an aspect of the original comics that I really like. There's something kind of cool about having a fictional character not only chat with readers, but also be aware of their creator. The snarky Frog even hurls insults at his pops Ethan. This banter made me feel more connected to the character. The first 2 issues of Cyberfrog, originally published by Hall of Heroes, sees the reluctant hero take on a street gang named Traffic and the supervillain group Rush Hour. Readers are also introduced to the cursed, maladjusted teenager Ben Reilly, aka Deathfly. These stories, while available in their original format in Warts and All, are also featured as Cyberfrog Unforgettable Tales No. 1 and 2. These 2 stories are mostly all action, with very little story, and Cyberfrog makes quick work of the bad guys. The Hall of Heroes Cyberfrog sequel just didn't quite gel with the first book. This story was more of a vanity project. It featured in-jokes galore that held more meaning to Ethan and his fellow comic buddies than it did to readers. For example, EVS pokes fun at his then-publisher Alan Stewart. He even had Cyberfrog inadvertently kill fellow creator Trent Kanuga's original comic character, Deadbolt. Unforgettable Tales No. 3 was the original sequel to Cyberfrog No. 1, and it would have featured the continuation and conclusion of the Deathfly story. Ethan states that he feared the story wasn't good enough, and he ultimately decided to scrap it. The story was believed to have been lost forever, but Ethan's longtime friend Trent Kanuga managed to hold on to a rough copy after all these years. Thanks to Trent, readers are finally able to read this story. The fourth and final book in the Unforgettable Tales series features Creed, another one of Kanuga's creations. This was an interesting mashup that sees the worlds of Cyberfrog and Creed cross paths in a creative way. The old Cyberfrog stories aren't exactly well fleshed out creations, but they are still fun to read. There's something about the classic frog that I just find so endearing. I'm sure it had something to do with being a teenager myself back in the 90s. Yes, Cyberfrog came across as a bit of a jerk back then, but it was more in a Bugs Bunny-esque sort of way. Like he was a boss and he knew it kind of way. I wish modern Cyberfrog would adopt just a bit of that flippant attitude. Not so much of the blatant disregard for the people around him or the brutal execution of wrongdoers, but a bit more of that arrogant sarcasm might be fun. Young Ethan and the original Cyberfrog never took themselves too seriously. The first comics were just about a reluctant hero, goofy bad guys, commentary on pop culture, and wicked fun art. Speaking of the art, I am thrilled that Ethan gave us both the original rough versions of Cyberfrog and also the George Lucas versions of the first couple of books. It was a real treat to see the two versions side by side. Ethan is blessed to be working with some of the best comic talent out there today, with Kyle Ritter, his colorist, and Eric Weathers, his letterer. It was nice to see how EVS evolved and perfected his craft over the years. For fans of Ethan Van Sciver's Avenging Amphibian, Cyberfrog Warts and All and the Unforgettable Tales books are a real treat. These classic stories have only served to whet my appetite for more froggy goodness.
Frog in your mailbox, it's a great thing.